My name is Nahid. I am the Events and Partnerships Manager here at Shangri-La. And on behalf of the entire Shangri-La team, starting with our Executive Director, Ben, we are so happy to welcome you here tonight. We are here to celebrate you as creative and powerful women in this former home of a very creative and powerful woman. What we want to do tonight is we want to connect, we want to learn from these phenomenal women, and we want to celebrate each other in this rather transformative place, we think, that is Shangri-La. Um, Speaking of phenomenal and transformative, I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Kristin. Kristin is the head of our digital program. She is our associate curator of user experience. And she is going to be leading us through the conversation with some pretty phenomenal women that were featured in this month's issue of the Honolulu magazine. Everybody gets an issue of the Honolulu magazine today because of the beautiful team at Honolulu magazine and their generosity. We have copy for everybody. Please make sure that you grab your copy on the way out today. Over to you, Kristin.
All right, thank you, Nahed. Can we just get another round of applause for the fact that we all get a copy of this awesome Honolulu magazine? So it was a really cool moment to be able to bring these 5 incredible women to Shangri-La to be featured as part of this article written by Bree Thalman. And so tonight it just seemed fitting that we honor them by having a quick conversation with each of them about moments that they found their creativity or their power throughout their lifetime. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome everybody to the front and we'll begin our conversation. So starting up first, Amy Hill, actress, writer, director. You choose. Left, right. Next is Vera Zambonelli, filmmaker, founder, and executive director of Hawaii Women in Filmmaking. Akiemi Glenn, scholar, linguist, founder, and executive director of the Popolo Project. And Jalene Kanani Bell, textile designer, president, and creative director of NoHo Home. And I just want to also recognize that Mara Fujihara was also someone who was featured in this amazing magazine. She's an interior designer and co-founder of Fishcake and unfortunately could not be with us tonight, but we're still excited to honor her as part of this feature. So, like I said, we're going to begin this conversation of just moments in our lives that were able to inspire us to find our creativity and power. And so, I don't know, Amy or Jalene, I don't know who wants to kick us off, but Amy, it looks like you might be ready with the mic over here.
I'm stuck here at the first chair. Well, it's a great question. I started my career in theater at the Asian American Theater Company in San Francisco and also Northwest Asian American Theater in Seattle, which was right after the Third World Strikes, where we were being able to create stories from our own experience, not having other people create the stories for us. So I spent a lot of time helping playwrights craft material as a director. And then I was also acting, but then I moved to Los Angeles and I knew I had this story about my experience going to university in Tokyo. I always felt othered, but after Tokyo, I felt sort of more powerful, but I didn't know exactly what that experience meant. And I'm in Los Angeles struggling to make a living, and I got a job as an interpreter on a Japanese-American co-production as the DP's interpreter, which was hell. But I got a call from Los Angeles. Somebody said that they had heard that I had a solo show. I didn't have a solo show, but I said, yes, I do. Because I was so miserable, and I thought, I will write one. And within 2 months, I had written my story about going to Japan and having that transform my life. Of course, I was terrified that it would fail miserably. They would judge me on my writing, my acting, and my story, my life. So I was really scared. It was a huge hit. It went from Los Angeles to San Francisco because I'd worked there. And they all said, come do it here. And then I did it in Seattle. And then I ended up doing it at the Public Theater, Actors Theater of Louisville. I mean, I traveled all over the country with this show, and my little story became the point where Hollywood came calling. All these things were happening for me, and it was never my point. My point was being able to tell my story, and that was the transformation, knowing that you have the power over your own story, that you can tell it. And whether, you know, I didn't care, I wanted people to like it, but I had no, my satisfaction came from doing it. The success was actually doing it to my best ability. And that has changed everything for me going forward.
First and foremost, I want to thank Nahid and Kristin and Shangri for having us and also taking a moment of where and when we are, you know, with all the things that are actually happening in the world. And thank you for having this moment to share the power of creativity, because I really believe that it gave us a chance to not only describe what's happening, but also imagine what is not yet. And so the story for me is actually a story that comes out of rage. As many Vahine may have experienced some form of ostracism in their career that they want to pursue, and that for me was film and filmmaking, which was, I mean, we're changing it, a boys' club. And so when I felt not included, I was very angry. So that's why I say like a moment of rage. But then I used the power of my rage to actually create a time and space for Vahine like myself that wanted to pursue a career in filmmaking that maybe didn't have the chance to go to film school because I never done. And that's actually how Hawaii Women in Filmmaking came about. So it's the power of, you know, anger that kind of propels you. You know, when you're like in your comfort zone, sometimes you just keep going in the status quo. But sometimes you experience something that makes you really angry, and then you harness the energy to do something that is not just for yourself. And, you know, as many Vahine in this room may have experienced, my story is not unique. It's actually the origin story of many organizations centered on Vahine stories. But it was kind of like a power transformation in the sense that I transformed the strong energy in something that became also transformational for many other people that became involved with the organizations. And today the organization is over 12 years old. We serve thousands of girls and genderqueer, also, you know, also our own understanding of what gender means. And but the goal is really to make sure that there is a time and space for people who want to tell their story to do so, and without having to face the challenges that too many experience, but then at the same time use that rage and anger to create something that doesn't exist yet. And now Hawaii Women in Filmmaking, as I said earlier, it's 12 years old. We are in pre-productions for season 5 of Real Vahine of Hawaii and many more things, but I have a limited time, so if you want to know more, I can share more later.
All right. There seems to be a theme so far that we have this urge to tell our stories on our own terms. And I think my story is also one of those, a little different flavor. So some 15 plus years ago, when I was a graduate student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I should have been writing my dissertation, I started a blog instead. And the blog was called The Popola Project. And it was a pretext really for me to start collecting stories of other Black folks who lived here in Hawaii. I was curious about them. I knew I was still kind of processing what my life was like, because I could go days and weeks and months without spending time with somebody who looked like me or had a similar cultural background to me. But I was committed to being in Hawaii. I love this place. It's my home, and I have felt kuleana to this place. And I knew that there had to be other people like that out there. So I asked everybody I knew, do you know a Black person? Will they talk to me? Some of them said yes. Many said no. But over the years of collecting those stories when I should have been writing, I started to see some patterns emerge. A lot of those people said, I want to connect with other people like me. I want to be in community. Some of those people reflected and imagined what it might have been like to have a community of Black folks of Hawaii when they were growing up here. And so, having heard those stories over a few years, a group of friends and I decided to actually stand this up as an organization. We were not sure that anybody would show up. So if you know much about our community here, we're around 2% of the total population of Hawaii. We weren't sure that people were going to show up to something called the Polo Project, and we can talk about why later if you're curious. And about 7 years ago, we did our first community engagement out at Key Project in Kahului. And we put the word out and we said, hey, just come talk story with us. We're all getting together. We'll see who shows up. We thought maybe 15 people would show up. And we thought that the event would run for like an hour and a half. We'd have a little panel and then a couple of minutes for talking story afterwards. And about 200 people showed up. Somebody flew over from Molokai. And at hour 6, the room was still buzzing with people sharing their stories and connecting, and friendships were born that night. And I really took away from that moment, one, that it was actually useful for me to use the blog as a procrastination tool, because several years later, once I had graduated, it had actually borne fruit. And so the blog was the seed, but the community engagement and sharing my idea was what really invited other people to connect. And so now, 7 years later, we're doing a lot. We've done a lot since then. We're working on a documentary film. We've done lots of programs out in the community, and we've created space for our kids to connect and have a community as well.
Aloha mai kako. So kind of the first moments that when I think about creativity, one of my first moments, and I can see myself still thinking through this lens, I probably was somewhere between kindergarten and third grade, and we had a PE class up at Kamehameha, and Mr. Chillard and Miss Freshley, they would have us walk around the class while they beat the tambourine. And they would keep beating the tambourine, and when they would stop, you had to freeze. And the point was that you needed to be walking into open space. So I have beaten into my head this tambourine saying, walk into open space, walk into open space. And that stuck with me. Now I'm going to skip over to my mother and talk about kind of DNA. So I think creativity from a DNA perspective was infused. She was a dancer, hula dancer who traveled the world. She also had her own design business, and we did craft fairs, and I hated it. And so I just said, I want a corporate life. I want my weekends to myself, and squashed any idea of having any creative lifestyle whatsoever. After college, I went into the FF&E industry, so furniture, fixture, and equipment. And I worked with architects and interior designers, and who worked on wonderful commercial projects, beautiful hotels, etc. And here they were trying to tell some overarching story about, place at that time. I mean, this is a good 20 plus years ago. And what I quickly found out is that there were no designs that really spoke authentically to our island history, culture, flora, fauna, arts and crafts. And so I just decided to do it, and I started designing. That is how I started designing alongside my career. And that in itself was a powerful moment for me, to be able to just take the bull by the horns and say, hey, I'm a little tired of looking at, designs that were designed by people overseas or in New York, because that's where manufacturers have their products designed. Instead of trying to make it fit, how's about we make some designs that are truly inspired and that talk about our place and our culture, and happened to be done by a Native Hawaiian. So that was a very empowering moment for me to start that. And then, fast forward, it was a very empowering moment for me to start my own business that was very forward facing. I had always been behind the scenes, really supporting the designers, with their interior designs. And so it was a big leap of faith to be up front, and this is what that looks like. And sometimes it's unnerving. Um, but that that was really special. But when I really felt it, was I had a manufacturer or a factory. I had a factory call me and say, "Where are your law labels?" And while I had been in the industry, law labels were never my responsibility. That was the manufacturer's responsibility. I was just doing the designs. But now I am the manufacturer of record, so I need a law label. They said, "Yeah." So I go on Google and I Google it. I need it in 2 languages. So, living in Hawaii my whole life, I'm like, "Oh, English and Japanese." And then I said, "Wait, why? I'm going to do this in Olelo, Hawaii." And it was like the heavens opened up and people sang, and it was I just got chills, but it was so empowering for me to now know that, I'm driving the destiny and the culture, the internal culture of our company, and that's me, and I'm driving it, and I get to share and talk about and whatever it is that I want to share and talk about, within the context of our culture here, and with respect. So, thank you for having me, and aloha.
I just wanted to say thank you again for all of you for sharing your stories. I think it's such a beautiful thing to know that the core calling for everybody is to tell our own stories. And if we're not able to tell our own stories, someone else is going to tell them for us, and they're going to get it wrong, right? And so just thank you for all the work that all 4 of you are doing in the community to advance, identity and meaning and belonging and what it means to be a woman. And I think this is a time for us to take a bit of a pause in our program, but I encourage all of us to keep connecting with you 4 wonderful women. Also, again, congratulations to Bree Thalman for this idea to create this article. It was an honor for us at Shangri-La to be a part of it. And I hear that there's more food, there's still more drinks to be had. And so please enjoy, and we'll reconvene around 7 with that. Oh, well, that's always a highlight too. If anyone does have a question, please raise your hand and we can go ahead and share the microphone so that we can jump in.
Have to have a lot of questions after that. Is there anybody that's comfortable enough to share a time when they felt their own personal power? And this doesn't have to be just the women in the audience. Excellent. Do you mind introducing yourself, please?
Um, Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hitzeman, and my mom owns Istanbul, Hawaii. If you have been there, thank you for supporting us and being there. And when I was listening, I'm sorry I do not recognize your name at this time, but her, I completely relate her story with mine of how using rage and using that power in the rage and turning into something that wasn't existed before. And I had a very long immigration problem where I felt completely humiliated as a human being because I didn't have any identity. They took my identity away, they took who I am. Everything that I existed on the paper was taken away from me for no reason. And I didn't know years later that will be my biggest gift of the universe to me. That will create something that I will do everything with my mother next to me, with joyfully every day. So that day I realized actually my biggest rage turned into my biggest gift. So I can relate with your story on that. And thank you for sharing your powerful story with us. Maybe someday I share my story too. Yeah.
I just want to add that, so my story that I told was my unique story, but as I toured the country and Canada, I found that everybody thought my story was their story, which is what was the gift, I think, for me and for everyone. It was like, you all have a story, and it's a powerful story, and it's a story worth telling, and it's so important that you feel the power to tell it, as all of us have done.
This is a question, not a story, but I'm just curious if you all have circles of women that support you in your journeys.
Yes. um, you know, I actually have an amazing group of best guy friends that took me from youth, through high school. Um, but my girlfriends are my joy. They bring so much joy to my life. They really kind of talk about who's going to be in your canoe, right? Who's gonna be there when you are in your worst, moments in high tides, and it is an honor and a privilege to be able to be in a circle like that. I'm fortunate to have a couple of them, and I don't. I I'm t- I have one of them here tonight, but she'd probably be embarrassed if I called her out. But um, it's having that support from women to women, and being able to emotionally connect, to able to relate to children and family, and the responsibilities across all of those platforms. I'm very techie now. Um, the ability to really connect on that level um, is truly special, and this is gonna sound corny, but very wings beneath our wings. They so if I'm the one up here, there's a whole lot of other girlfriends who are lifting me up to be able to be here.
Yes, yes, and of all ages, of all, yeah, cannot be otherwise. And I feel that the way it works for me, so sometimes I don't necessarily need help per se, but I just don't need obstacles. And so what the people that I have that like to work with is we are kind of like energizing each other in who we are, meeting us where we are. And I think just the possibility to be authentically yourself and be embraced for who you are is that what I find in the community of friends that I have. And once again, of all the ages, I just left youth filmmaking programs before coming here, and it's just fun, and we are there really to uplift each other, which is kind of interesting because I feel there's, filmmaking is very competitive. Like, it's a difficult industry. But then, if you create a space and time and a memory of how it could actually be collaborative, the best idea wins, and it's not because I'm the idea, I'm the one who's going to have it. No, even the newest person in the group can share their ideas. I think when it's like, as a good friend of mine, Manu Meyer says, love begets love, and so that's what we are really trying to do. And then once you have that experience, that memory, then you take it with you, and that can be different. It doesn't have to be cutthroat as everybody says in all of it. No, we can create a space that we want to be part of and belong to. So yeah,
absolutely.
I think my women friends have been my saving grace. They've been there for me when I think, I mean, men are okay, but particularly gay men. I'm very happy with my gay men friends, but the women have always been so unbelievably supportive in my industry too, very cutthroat. They're the ones, when I moved to Los Angeles, would call me and say, I went into this audition. I think you should tell your agent you're perfect for. I mean, those things you think don't happen. But I've always found women to be really, well, my women friends, very generous and supportive and keep me going. Yeah.
And I'll just add, yeah, there's again a theme, and we're up here together. I certainly have had wonderful women friends who have supported me and the work that we're doing currently. I think often about a line that I heard many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, from Dr. Catherine Takara, who's a scholar who lives here on this island. And has done amazing work with documenting the stories of Black women in Hawaii since the 1960s. Her work is really fascinating. One of the things that she said is that she finds that women are culture bearers. What that means is not just that we take care of the children, but that we take care of lots of things and we attend to things that are growing. We attend to the creative side. And I certainly have found that a lot of my most kind of generative relationships are with people who are also building things, and they happen to be women often. So, like all of you, I think there's a lot of different ways that we connect and support each other, and women are integral to that.
We have one more participant from the back. Michelle?
Thank you. Thank you. Aloha, everyone. My name is Michelle Stoffel. I'm with Honolulu Magazine, and it is our profound and distinct honor to have partnered with this amazing space and place, the Shangri-La, and all of the staff, starting from Meredith to Ben and Nahed and Kristin, your family to us, and to all of you amazing mana wahine on the panel. Thank you so, so much for gracing our pages. That being said, it would not have been possible without Bree Thalman. Bree, if you wouldn't mind just waving and saying hello. She was the inspiration behind all of the pages, along with Christine Labrador, our senior art director, as well as Diane So, who's here, our editorial director. Diane, if you wouldn't mind waving. So thank you all very, very much. You truly mean so much to Hawaii. You are national treasures, and we are so honored to be here. And I don't want to stand in the way of the sunset or more food and drink, but mahalo and aloha nui.
Thank you, Michelle.